Адам баласына, адам баласының бәрі дос. Мейірбандылық, әр түрлі істе адам баласын өз бауырым деп, өзіне ойлағандай, оларға да болса игі еді демек, бұлар жүрексі.
Дастарханымыздың қадірлі қонағы болыңыздар. Дастархан, ау дастархан, берекелі дастархан, берекелі дастархан, дастархан, ау дастархан, берекелі дастархан, берекелі дастархан, дастархан, ау дастархан, берекелі дастархан, берекелі дастархан.
Дүниенің көрінген, һәм көрінбеген сырын түгелдеп, ең болмаса денелеп білмесе, адамдықпен орны болмайды. сұрауын табамын, қалауын табамын деп жүріп, қорлықпен өмір өткізгенше, малды не жерден сұрау керек, не маңдай терден сұрау керек. Әсемпаз болма әрнеге, өнерпаз болсаң арқалан, сен де бір кірпіш дүниеге, кетігің тапта бар қалан. Адам баласы адам баласынан ақыл, ғылым, ар, мінез деген нәрселермен озбақ. Талап еңбек, терең ой, қанағат рақым, ойлап қой. Бес асыл іс, көнсеңіз. Егер ісім өнсін десең, ретін тап.
Қымбат қоятын маған, туған ел батыр бабам. Найзағай намыс оты, өзіңде лапылдаған, куә боп жатыр далам. Туған ел Қазақстаным, саған ғашық мен бір бала ел. Туған ел Қазақстаным, қасиетті саған бар ел. Қасиетті саған бар
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause. Contrast Dance Theater, Chamber Choir of the Rachmaninov State Academic Philharmonic, and alternative folk group Steppe. Қайырлы таң, аса мәртебелі меймандар, қадірлі қонақтар. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to the opening ceremony of Astana Finance Days 2025. It's an honor to have you here as we embark on this remarkable journey where capital truly empowers the future. Today's ceremony is not only a celebration of Kazakhstan's rich cultural heritage, but also a reflection of our commitment to financial openness, global collaboration, and our readiness to welcome investors from around the world. The Astana International Financial Center is proud to be a trusted gateway to the region where innovation, opportunity, and long-term partnership converge. Thank you for being part of this shared vision. Welcome to Kazakhstan again. Ladies and gentlemen, and now it is my honor to invite Mr. Serik Zhumangarin, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Economy of the Republic of Kazakhstan, to the stage. Please join me in inviting him to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please welcome.
Distinguished participants of the forum, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kazakhstan, I am pleased to welcome you to the 8th Astana Financial Day Forum. Over the past years, this event has become one of the leading platforms in the region, bringing together investors, business leaders, and government representatives from more than 70 countries. Today, Astana Finance Days is not just a tradition. It is a symbol of Kazakhstan's openness to the world, a platform for dialogue and cooperation, and a reaffirmation of our commitment to partnership and innovation. Astana is becoming a true bridge between East and West, between developed and emerging markets. We live in a challenging time. Global disruption continues to affect production, transport, and logistic chains. Yet, Kazakhstan demonstrates resilience and strong potential for growth. In the first 7 months of this year, our GDP grew by 6.3%, including 8.3% growth in the real sector and 5.2% in services. One of the key tasks that the head of states set for us is to attract investments. In the first quarter of 2025, gross FDI inflows amounted to USD 6.6 billion, up 6.2% compared to the same period of last year. Investments in fixed capital grew by 16.1%, reaching 9.9 trillion tenge. These figures are not just statistics. They reflect the confidence of our international partners. Kazakhstan remains the leader in attracting foreign investment in Central Asia. The government has set clear priorities. First, preserving macroeconomic stability and the resilience of the financial system. Second, diversifying the economy through the development of industry, logistics, and services. Third, accelerating investments in infrastructure, digitalization, and new technologies. Today, our strategic goal is to double the size of the economy by 2029. Achieving this requires attracting at least 150 billion USD in foreign direct investment and raising the level of fixed capital investments to 23% of GDP by 2029. Kazakhstan has already undertaken significant measures to improve the investment climate. We have strengthened the role of the Investment Attraction Council, introduced investment agreements, and implemented a green corridor mechanism for projects in priority sectors of the economy. At the same time, we will continue to refine these instruments, ensuring the most favorable conditions for investors to succeed in Kazakhstan. The Astana International Financial Center plays a vital role in this vision. Since its inception, the AIFC has provided a unique institutional framework based on the principles of English common law, independent regulation, and international standards. These foundations strengthen the trust of global investors and make the center a platform for sustainable growth, capital flows, and financial innovation. Today, more than 4,000 companies from 85 countries are registered at the AIFC. They operated across a wide range of sectors, from asset management and fintech to green finance and Islamic banking. The total volume of the investments into Kazakhstan's economy has exceeded 70 billion USD. This reflects the AIFC's growing role as a truly international ecosystem that serves not only Kazakhstan, but also the wider region of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. The theme of this year's forum, Where Capital Empowers the Future, is especially relevant. It reminds us that capital is not only about financial returns. When directed responsibly, capital has the power to create jobs, foster innovation, and improve people's quality of life. We trust that this forum will become an important event for building professional connections, forging partnerships, and turning ideas into real projects. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan, I thank you for your confidence and your commitment to our shared future. I wish all participants productive discussions and successful outcomes. It is my great honor to declare Astana Finance Days 2025 open. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, we would like to express our deep gratitude for your welcoming remarks. Dear ladies and gentlemen, and now we would like to invite you to enjoy a short film that captures the historic inspiration behind the Astana International Financial Center, its bold vision, remarkable scale, and the dynamic opportunities it presents. Ladies and gentlemen, let's pay attention to the screen.
Across the boundless steppes, at the heart of Eurasia, the Great Silk Road has crossed these lands since ancient times. A road that connected ideas and entire civilizations. The ancient nomads were part of this journey. Their nomadic way of life kept them connected across continents, as they once roamed for the finest lands. Today, the search for a thriving ecosystem brings business here, to the heart of Eurasia. Their anchor was the yurt, their home, flexible, open, and resilient. Today, such a center of gravity for business is the Astana International Financial Center, a place where ideas meet capital and partnership comes to life. AIFC is an international financial ecosystem built on the principles of English common law. Here, businesses benefit from a favorable regulatory environment, tax preferences, and open access to global capital. Everything needed to grow in a stable environment, where business truly matters, where trust is valued, where at the core stand transparency, partnership, and a global mindset. Honoring our roots, we're building an ecosystem where values are passed on to future generations. Here in Kazakhstan, a new center of gravity has emerged, a vital link between East and West, where resilience meets innovation and human capital shapes the economy of the future. AIFC, inspired by history, built on trust, designed for growth.
Yes, indeed. This is us. This is Kazakhstan. This is Astana International Financial Center. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue this celebration of vision and collaboration, it is my distinct honor to invite the governor of the Astana International Financial Center, Mr. Renat Bekturov, to share his welcome address.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Astana. Welcome to Astana Finance Days 2025. And of course, first of all, I thank the government and His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister for the opening remarks, for opening our ceremony, and for the warm words about Astana International Financial Center. Just a few moments ago, we have witnessed a cultural performance that is built around the symbols that are deeply rooted in culture of my people. Shangrak, the crown of the house. Dastarhan, our traditional table. Wheel of the Silk Road. And of course, the double drums of the steppe. They may seem different, but of course you notice that they share the same shape, the circle. The circle that has played a great role in the life of my people for many centuries. The circle of home, the circle of journey, the circle of hospitality, and the circle of rhythm and unity. And today, we gathered here to add another circle of capital, circle of Astana International Financial Center. And as you can notice, even though AIFC is a new entity, our heritage takes root in our deep history. The history that reminds that these great steps are not just vast landscape. They were the heartbeat of Great Silk Road. Caravans passed through, connecting east and west, carrying silk, spice, and other precious goods. But they didn't just carry commodities. They carried hope, they carried trust, they carried partnerships. And Silk Road allowed the first forms of the contracts, of the warrants, of the credit letters. The ancient merchants of Taraz, Otrara, and Turkestan, they didn't just exchange the goods. They exchanged faith, they exchanged ideas, they exchanged innovation. So the Silk Road was the financial system as it was the trading route. And Kazakhstan, standing at its crossroad, was the custodian of that financial center. Reflecting on that past, building a modern financial center, we are focused on the future. So the theme of the Astana Finance Days 2025 is where capital empowers the future. And we talk about capital in many forms. Astana, capital city, the youngest capital in Eurasia, home for Astana International Financial Center. Financial capital, investments, markets, innovations that allow flow of capital to grow the economy. And of course, human capital, energetic, creative, innovative, especially young people of Kazakhstan and this region that are building tomorrow's Kazakhstan. And last but not the least is institutional capital, the rule of law, the regulation that we have created AIFC that enforces trust. And as you know, trust is at the foundation of any financial system. To celebrate that and to study the phenomenon of trust, we have actually recently opened our corporate museum of Trust in AIFC. So I urge everyone during the Astana Finance Days to visit our museum and to learn how we imagine trust and how we think about the trust that lays at the foundation of AIFC as well. So thinking about all the forms of capital, we believe that all these forms converge in Astana International Financial Center. As a Shangrak, we unite under our roof investors, innovators, entrepreneurs. As the wheel of Silk Road carried goods, the wheel of AIFC carries capital flows in modern economy. As the Dastarhan, we welcome our partners and our participants at our table with openness and fairness. And as the drum, we believe that AIFC sets the rhythm of modern financial center in the great Eurasia. So once again, welcome to Astana Finance Days. I believe that the AIFC today has become a vibrant financial center. More than 4,300 companies are registered with us. As Deputy Prime Minister mentioned, more than 17 billion of capital was facilitated through the Astana International Financial Center. So again, today, Astana AIFC as the crossroads of history, defining its role and again reinventing the modern Silk Way. But the caravans of today, they do not carry commodities and goods. They carry ideas, they carry capital that empowers the future. What this future is going to be like, what future is bringing for the financial services, we're gonna discuss it with our very special guest, the futurist, the thinker, the author behind the Banking 4.0, and the author of the podcast, Breaking the Banking, my good friend, Brett King. While Brett takes the stage, please, your attention to the screen. Hi,
Thank
Brett.
you very much for having me.
Yeah, good to
It's great
see you
to
in
be here.
Astana. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Please, once again,
Good
welcome
morning.
Brett King. Okay, so how was the trip? Is this your first time in Astana?
I've been to Almaty before, but it's my first time to Astana, so it's wonderful to be here. And your team has treated me excellently. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. So as I was saying, we're building on the heritage of the great Steppe, but we're always focused on the future. And I think we live through the time when there is a lot of changes. And of course, you as a thinker, as a futurist, you have shared your knowledge, your vision about how financial system globally is going to develop. So my first question, what do you think are the difficulties of the modern financial system, and how do you think they will change, how the innovation and technology will disrupt and change the financial industry in, let's say, next decade?
I mean, the key difference is obviously artificial intelligence. AI is going to reshape financial services because as we move to autonomous systems at scale, supply chain automation, dark factories, these types of things, the traditional financial system is not fit for purpose. You can't have 1960s mainframe core systems and batch-based payment systems when it comes to real-time autonomous operation. So this essentially means we need entirely new technical infrastructure to support next-generation financial services. And everything that we learned about banking and finance in the last 100 years, very little of that will transfer to this new world. So we're actually seeing a revisioning of how financial services, banking and policy will need to work in this AI first world.
Well, that's, I think, what the regulator are thinking, right? How this is developing and what technologies and what processes we should welcome and what possess actually a greater risk for the system, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
In terms of the risk, I mean, this is a really interesting element we see now. If we look at the geopolitical situation, we look at, for example, China versus the US. China has been working on the CBDC since 2014 now and planning this. Their energy requirements have changed, so they've invested a lot in that infrastructure. The US has sort of doubled down a little bit on their traditional industry, and this is slowing them down now in terms of adaptation. What's really the problem for regulators in this environment is you've got this technological environment where the exponential increase of technology is opening up amazing opportunities, but regulatory and policy environment tends to change much slower. So this gap is where the biggest risk exists in the market today.
Well, I understand that. That's where you need to balance, right? What the technology and what the market requires, and how do you still stick to your main mandate? One of the main mandates as a regulator is the safeguarding the system, right? Because if something happens, that's gonna carry a threat to the whole system. So I'm not sure that gap should converge very fast, right? You have to still assess many of the risks that are not clear. And one of the technologies that we mentioned is exactly AI, right? And the employment of AI in the financial industry. there are representatives of many financial institutions here, and they will say they are taking first step on employing AI in their processes, but mostly it's to make their internal processes effective. But whether you want to outsource decision making to AI, that's a big question. So what do you think? Like, is AI just merely gonna, let's not say merely, but gonna increase the effectiveness of the processes, or it's actually will be able to take some of the decisions in the future?
Certainly within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to shift more and more decision-making, strategic decision-making and planning to AI. At least for now, it's an augmentation of the human process. If you listen to Eric Schmidt, for example, the former executive chairman of Google, he says the arrival of non-human intelligence is a really big deal. And he said by the end of this year, the smartest scientists, the smartest mathematicians, the smartest physicists that we have on the planet will be artificial intelligence. So this sort of gives you an idea of how we have to have this collaborative intelligence approach with AI moving forward. I put it fairly simply. There are two types of people in the world today. You've heard me say this before, right? The first type is someone that's using AI to enhance their career or augment their business today. This is the first type. And the second type of person is those that are going to be replaced by the first type of person. That's really the game right now, because AI is going to reshape the global economy so significantly and so fundamentally, because it's going to empower incredible growth and technological advances that we have never had that tool set before. And as a result, you have to change your mindset of operation. And that's really that shift that's going to be occurring over the next few years.
Well, I think that's a good point to ask this question. We have in the audience gathering of the regulators from the region. So what would be your suggestion? How to shift regulators' minds so that they welcome new technologies and employment of AI in financial industry and don't stop this, or cause problems for the process, however, still maintaining, again, their main mandate of the stability. So how to make that shift in mind?
Look, I think the first thing is understanding that regulation needs to support this new infrastructure that we'll be building. And so I think you have to understand that, like we've seen with the fintech revolution that's happening in banking, and today if you take the top 20 fintechs in the world, they command 4 billion customers, and the top 20 retail banks only have 2.7 billion customers. So that's happened just in the last 10 years. So if you look at banking and finance, on that basis, it's clear that banking is becoming technology-led infrastructure moving forward. For regulators to exist in this environment, regulators must also be a technology infrastructure play first and foremost. If you look at the policy element and the legal element of this, we're just going to wrap that into autonomous systems in the future, rather than like having laws on the parliaments and things like that. It's going to be implemented in code base. So the main job of regulators today is to shift their mindset from being a supervisory body looking after the laws of the system to being core technology infrastructure for the growth of the economy. And that's a big shift, because it requires new skills and new thinking from the ground up. So that's the type of leadership we need from the regulators.
Yeah, good. You touched upon banks and what some of the jurisdictions call challengers of the banks, or fintechs,
Sure.
right? So what do you think that the industry actually will look like in, 20 years, given all this technology, AI and other technology? What do you think this is going to be like?
Well, if you go to China today, the largest retail bank in China is WeBank,
yeah.
right? 450 million customers that they've acquired in 10 years. The largest retail bank in Latin America is Nubank, right?
Yep.
And within a couple of years, the largest retail bank in Europe will be Revolut. So if you extend that logically in the 2050s or 2040s, all of the world's largest banks in the world will be digital pure plays. That's the traction we have right now. So there will be some banks that can transition and become digital banks of their own. But the question I get typically at this type of event, particularly from executives of banks, is, tell us, which is the best bank in the world at doing this? Is it JP Morgan? Is it DBS in Singapore? Who's the best bank that we should copy? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong question. It's not a bank you should be copying, it's a technology company like WeBank or Nubank or Revolut that should be your template for moving forward. But this requires two core things in the bank: technology and cultural agility. And that's something, because of the risk aversion that you speak of, is a big challenge. Because it's like trying to change the engines of a Airbus while you're flying at 30,000 feet. It's tricky. But I would say that's the two key elements, is cultural and technical agility is what's going to get you there.
Yeah, I'm glad you've mentioned WeBank. I've met them, right? And this is a really fascinating story. And the decision-making on underwriting loans is so fast. But that is based on data, right?
Yes.
When you talk about technology, data is fundamental. And not many countries have built out the systems where they can collect data as effectively as China.
True.
Yeah. So how do you see? Because in my mind, the countries who are prepared and have these points of collecting data, and the difference between the countries who are behind it is going to be even bigger. So how do we address that issue, that not everywhere data is collected properly and their infrastructure built to collecting data?
It's a really great question. I think data is sort of the lifeblood of artificial intelligence and this ability to tailor and personalize. And this is really where AI, from a generative finance perspective, is going to be revolutionary, both for businesses and for consumers. The fact that you'll be able to have this embedded utility of the bank and finance in your life, where your personal AI will be able to tailor everything you need. So you won't have traditional products, for example, like we think today, like a credit card. You'll be able to have access to credit in real time, but it will just be the AI agent. Your AI agent will go off and solve the problem of access to credit when and where you need it. This type of sort of approach to this in terms of data requires a very different view of data than we've had the last 20 years or so. We've been focused particularly on the EU with GDPR on data protection. Right? What we need to move to today is a data ownership structure. So yes, you need technological capability, but you also need a sort of slightly different policy or regulatory view, is that data is an asset in that environment, and if I'm going to give you my data, what am I going to get in return? And we see this conflict happening in the US right now with companies like OpenAI and Perplexity, bringing in all of this public domain data, but then there's issues over whether they should be paying royalties to authors and so forth. The reality is we have to sort of change that view. And I'll tell you the number one reason is yesterday with the Global Leaders Conference in China, Putin and President Xi were caught talking about the implications of longevity science over the next few years when they're expecting to live to the age of 150. I don't know if you saw that in the news, right? And but this requires data availability and transparency, because the most important data we're going to need for those types of innovations that science is bringing to us is the ability to record as much data as we can about your health and biometrics and so forth. So data architecture in terms of data ownership and attribution is more important than protecting or securing our data in the way we've thought about traditionally.
Yeah, yet another challenge for the regulator, how to address the security of data and how to manage personal data properly, right?
Well, maybe in the future we're going to have data savings accounts and data bank accounts, right? So instead of just storing your money, you'll have your value store. In fact, this is probably where wallets that we think of today, which is a value store for your money, your wallet is going to be your personal data store in the future. So when you talk about you personally interacting with artificial intelligence and these capabilities it brings, your data wallet and your personal data being stored and have access for longevity treatments and better personal financial management is the way we think it will probably go.
So instead of giving for free our data from Apple Watches, Garmin's, we will be able to sell it to Apple.
Yes, you'll trade it, yeah. And you'll trade it for better availability of services and so forth.
Yeah, if I may now a little bit talk about another technology that I think is reshaping the financial industry is distributed ledger, blockchain, or decentralized finance. Because this area is really developing quite well in Astana International Financial Center as well. There, I can probably separate into cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, and tokens, right? So how do you think that's going to disrupt the financial industry? It's already happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where are we going?
Well, we've called these elements of the system alternative finance and things like this today. But here's the reality. To capture the massive economic benefits that artificial intelligence will bring us, we need constructs for managing autonomous finance. And at the heart of that is both digital money, as you've described, but also smart contracts. Now, in the past, we thought of smart contracts as DeFi, decentralized finance. But actually, by the 2050s and 2060s, smart contracts in developed economies will run 50 to 60% of the global economy. And these will not run on traditional core banking systems, nor will they run with traditional fiat currency. Digital twin models and tokenization is how we'll measure the world and make it machine readable. Then on top of that, the contractual supply chain automation and those elements that we bring, this will be smart contract layer, and we will have to figure out what is the optimal currency, digital currency to use in that setting. Whether that's a CBDC, which will most likely be aimed more at wholesale cross-border trade, and then within market, more of the stablecoin situation. The US is doubling down on stablecoins, but I think this is still going to move quite quickly because as we inject more AI into autonomous marketplaces, the reality is AI will propose new types of digital currencies that are more efficient. But here's the real conundrum of this. The more automation you put in the system, the less valuable fiat currency and money itself becomes. And this is, probably the biggest question is, in the second half of this century, what happens to capitalism if value exchange around fiat currency loses its power? What does the market look like in a sort of area of abundance, but it's an abundance produced by intelligence rather than the way we think of the markets today built on assets.
Yeah, that's interesting thinking because when I think about the blockchain, I think first stage is going to really change the infrastructure because we need now a lot of verifications like for securities, custodians, depositories, and etc. But with the blockchain, that does not require it because blockchain carries the information itself, right? So
yes.
We don't need many layers of verifications and custodians. But as you said, if you think about it further, we could kind of go back to a barter economy, but more efficient when you have a token or some digital form of any asset and you can exchange it directly to any asset in a token form, right? I think that's where you're alluding to.
Yeah, no, I think, for example, we now are talking about these AI-based data centers. I know there's some people from the UAE. UAE currently is working on the largest data center project on the planet for OpenAI. It's starting off as a 5 gigawatt data center, and then it's going to be expanded to 10 gigawatts. This is how we're measuring data centers now. We're not measuring it by the number of GPUs or the compute power. We're measuring them by energy demands. So as we shift into this this next era of energy transformation, maybe energy will become a core currency of the system, And this is why energy transformation is so critical to have in partnership with AI. And then, if you start thinking about longevity and these other things, what is the core currency there? What would you pay to have an extra 50 years of life? This is, is there a monetary value to this, or is there something different? And then when you start talking about the autonomous system, these drones that will deliver packages, these autonomous vehicles which will be driving you around, how are they going to be in the economic system? Are they paying road tolls and road tax, or are they trading off their driver hours, as an autonomous vehicle for access to energy, for example? So this is where our current system of thinking about trade and commerce is limited by those historical elements, and autonomous operations are really going to require some flexibility in terms of approach.
And one last question, Brent, if you allow me. We talked about AI and blockchain. Any other technology that we are not yet discussing, or the public is not discussing, that gonna change the financial industry, that is not yet popular, let's say?
So if you aren't aware of this already, quantum computers are going to be potentially even more impactful to society from a scientific advancement perspective. We talk about the concept of quantum day or Q day. We've talked about this offline before. Earlier this year, a quantum stack in China was able to break a 50-bit RSA encryption key. We expect within the next 5 years, maybe even sooner, that we will have quantum computers run by state operators that will be able to break all of our existing RSA encryption. This means military communications, secure government communications, and the entire banking system that runs on RSA encryption will be opened up. So unless you are on the cloud stack or have post-quantum encryption enabled, then you have a massive risk. But on the other side of that, quantum is going to help us understand the universe in different ways. It's going to be able to solve mathematical and physics problems that would take 1 million years of traditional compute power in just a couple of hours. So this is immense computing power that's going to give us the ability to transform our existence as a species. But in doing so, it's going to break a lot of the traditional infrastructure that we've had in place. So make sure you are quantum ready as well as AI ready. But this all leads to one core realization. Banking and finance moving forward is 100% about the tech. And all of the major banks and financial institutions in the world in 2050 will be technology. In fact, today, if you look at the top 50 fastest growing financial institutions in the world, there's not one traditional player amongst them. And that tells you all you need to know. We are reshaping the world of banking and finance around technology.
Well, thank you, Brett. Thank you for answering the questions. Dear ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Brett King for this Fireside interview.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. There will be another chance to listen for Brett during the Astana Finance Days and maybe ask your questions from the audience, so please check with your schedule. Thank you for your attention. Thank you once again, Brett.
Thank you, Governor Bekturov. Thank you, Mr. King, for that fascinating discussion. So it's a powerful beginning to the important conversations we'll be having over the next 2 days. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, once again, Astana Finance Days 2025 is officially declared open. Well, over the next 2 days, you'll experience a rich program of discussions, networking opportunities, and forward-looking conversations, all aimed at shaping the financial future of our region and beyond. Please proceed to the main forum areas. Registration desks are located at the entrance of the block C3.1. The plenary session will begin at 11 a.m. in the AIFC trading hall, which is located in the block C3.4. Our organizing team is available throughout the venue to assist you at any time. We wish you an inspiring and productive Astana Finance Days. Thank you so much.